crafty friends, I think I'm in love. Look at this embellishment pick. And let me tell you now, you can't make just one. Once I got started, I could have easily made 100, but I thought let me just make a few, otherwise this video might be 7 hours long. So these are embellishment picks. And near the end of the video, I'll show you how you can use them in your journals to add beautiful decoration and interest. I don't know if they look rather complicated, but they're actually pretty easy to make. They're a little bit fiddly because you are working sort of on a small scale, but they're absolutely doable and I 100% guarantee that they are fun. You can make them in different sizes. You can make them any style you want. You can overload them with embellishments like I have, or you can keep them simple and you can make them suit your theme. You can do them in a mass make and do a sort of a general color and then add elements as you're adding it to your journals. There are so many options. First, you'll need to gather all the things you're going to use. I started off collecting some papers. These papers suit my journal. I'm working in my big fat pink journal. So I've picked papers in the pinks and florals, including papers I've already used in the journal. I also have some fabric and some trims and some lace. And then I've gathered all the washi tapes that suit, again, my colors and my themes. Yes, I have quite a few. I'm a hoarder, if you must know. And then go through your stash and collect all the small little buttons and gems and wooden shapes, die cuts, flowers, butterflies, anything you have that is pretty small that can go onto your little flags. And then you need something that's going to be the pick. So I have a few toothpicks. These will make the really small ones. And then these are the little sticks you use for cake pops. And then I also have some skewers. So you could also use a straw, anything you have. After making these for me, I found that the cake pop sticks work the best, but try a few different things and see what works best for you. So I'm going to use a combination of paper strips and washi tape. If you don't have washi tape, you can do this just with paper. Again, use what you have. I'm going to cut some strips from the different colored papers. I'm not measuring anything. I'm cutting them at different widths and different lengths. And depending on the size flag you're going to put on your pick, it needs to be at least 3 inches long. Longer is better because you are going to trim it off anyway. You just don't want them too short. And do make them different widths so there's a variety and it makes each one very unique. So you get the idea. Strips of paper first. I'm going to take my strips and put them into groups of 3. I want to just see which colors I'm using. I want to make sure I'm not repeating any elements in the same flag. This is the initial concept of how each pick is going to look. Of course, it's not cast in stone. You can change your mind later. This is just a quick, rough idea. So you know if you have enough strips of a specific color and if you have a nice variety of colors. I'm now going to start attaching them to my sticks. Now I'm going to use a glue stick for this. You could also use double-sided tape or craft glue, whatever adhesive you prefer. So we're going to apply the glue across the entire strip of paper. We're then going to fold it over the stick and stick it back on itself. Now you could have a shorter piece where you just tuck the end of it over the little stick, but that can easily come undone. I find it easiest just to have a long strip where it is double and the center fold is against the stick. I did leave a small gap between each piece of paper that I stuck. You can put them flush if you prefer. I just like the look of them being a little bit separated. And then you can also use your washi tapes. You'll do it in the same way. If anything though, the washi tapes do stick a little better because they already have their own adhesive. Just one note, do press it quite firmly against the stick so you don't have a gap in the paper. Otherwise it can sort of slip on and off. Make sure it is stuck down really well. I used my folding tool for that, but of course you can just use your finger. Just press it down firmly so it sticks really well. This that I'm sticking down now is a very thin washi tape with glitter. On to the next one. As you can see, it really is a pretty simple process, and you can continue doing this for as many as you want or for as many sticks as you have. I'm going to continue on and do all of my little bits of paper and washi tape, but because the process is repeated over and over again, I will fast forward to the end of this section. So the larger ones on the cake pop sticks are done. I'm now going to make a few smaller ones on the toothpick. This I found a little bit more tricky because the toothpick was quite thin, and also the toothpick I had a point on each end. Sometimes the toothpick has a flat end. So I didn't use 3 pieces on the toothpicks, I just used 2. Okay, maybe on this one I used 3, but the one was really thin, so it doesn't really count. So I will make 3 more of these. Let's fast forward to the end of that section. So here are all our strips on our sticks. We're now going to cut them down and shape them. I'm making a V-shaped cut on the edge of each of my flags, and I am making each flag a different length. I want them uneven. I think it looks nice like that, but of course cut them and shape them whichever way you like. On some of them I'm using my pencil just to make a little mark for the center point, so I make sure that my V shape is even, but if it's not, that's also fine. You don't have to make a V shape if you don't want. You can just keep it straight at an angle. You could even round the corners if you like. So let's go ahead and shape all the little flags. So the 4 bigger ones are done. I'm now going to do the 4 smaller ones, exactly the same way. Of course, you could leave them just like this if you like, but I'm going to embellish mine, and personally, I love them overloaded. This is where your own style will come in. So go ahead and use all your little embellishments you've found, your sequins or beads or gems or anything that you have, and start placing them over the flags to sort of see where they're going to be positioned. You can, of course, just stick as you go, but I wanted to lay mine out just to get an idea of where each element will go before I started gluing down. This is actually a really good project to use all those little things that you have like one of left. You have one little button that doesn't really go anywhere else, or a little bow, or a die cut that doesn't match anything. It's all your sort of little leftover bits. They're small enough to go onto these little flags. There's only really one of them. You can't use them anywhere else. Perfect place to use them on your little embellishment picks. Once you're happy with all the placements of your little bits, you can start sticking them down. For mine, I'm using a clear craft glue. I find that a little bit more sturdy to hold things in place like embellishments. And it also isn't a very quick drying time, so I do have time to move things around if I change my mind. These make my heart really happy to look at them. I think they are just fabulous. I did feel mine needed some contrast, so I did go ahead and add some of those little black sentiment stickers. There's also some black or darker elements in my journal, so that sort of joins everything up and creates that continuity I like to talk about. Now for the top part of the stick, you can leave it as is or you can stick something on. I'm going to stick something on just to sort of finish it off. I've got some gold foil card. I'm just going to do some punching with some small little hearts and flower shapes and going to stick that at the very top. I mentioned earlier that the toothpicks I was using had a point on each end. So to do the top of these, I'm actually going to glue some beads on the top. And because the bead has got a hole, it fits at the top of the toothpick. So I'm going to apply some glue and then just slip the bead on. And this makes it look less like a toothpick. And then I'm just going to decorate the smaller ones too with the little embellishments and gems like I did the larger ones. Now for mine, I don't mind if some of the elements that I'm sticking down are sort of spilling over the flags and they're larger and hanging off, like this word love. This wooden shape is bigger than the flag, so it is sort of going to hang off on the side, but I like the look that gives. And then also some elements that I'm sticking down, I'm sticking over two flags. So I'm not sort of sticking every element on a flag separately. I want to sort of try and make everything continuous in one. So sometimes a wooden shape will go over two pieces of the flag or washi tape or paper. With these little picks, I did often think I was finished. And then I would sort of go and make a cup of tea and I'd come back and I wanted to add some more. So I did overload them quite a bit. I kept adding and adding, and eventually I thought, okay, I better stop. But it's very, very easy to get carried away. For some of the flags, I added a little bit of lace at the bottom. I did it at the back, at the bottom of the flag, so it's sort of just peeping out from underneath. And then you can also add some dangling elements. I had these little tassels and I used some jump rings just to attach them to the top of the stick. Let me show you a close-up of each one. This one is my favorite one. Let me show you how you can add them to your journal. Let's make some space first. So you can easily just pop them into a pocket behind all your other elements that can stick out the top. And then you can also add them to a tab like this. Now originally I was going to just staple it into place, but then I thought I had a better idea. So I'm going to just glue one of the flags down just to keep it in place. And then I'm going to use a piece of washi tape on the bottom part of the pick, so it looks like it's been stuck in just with the tape. So cute. One of the smaller ones can also just go into a pocket. You can also just leave it between the pages like a bookmark. I really hope you enjoyed this video, one of my favorite things to make, and I hope you were inspired to create your own embellishment picks too. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the little bell so you're notified every time I upload new content. Thanks again for watching. Happy creating, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.